got a lot of work to do. That's why we do CrossFit, to get better. Congrats, Danny Spiegel. For anybody who says you're slow, you're not. Here's the second video in a series of myself recreating 5 CrossFit Games events from 2024 and competing against the women. This event I'm doing is called Track and Field. It is a 1,600 meter run, and at the 12-minute mark, you will complete a 50-yard sprint, a 50-yard sprint with a sandbag on your shoulder, 75-yard sprint, 75-yard sprint with a sandbag, and finish it out with a 100-yard sprint. For this video, I did not have a 70-pound sandbag, so I did use the 100-pound, which is what the men used. I also only had one, so I had to kind of split up 75-yard sprints by doing shuttles. So my time potentially could have been a little faster. However, no excuses. These women are so fit. Go ahead and watch, find out for yourself.
Stand by.
And heat number 1 of 2 is off for the individual women. And we've had a long day so far today, Adrian. We started the morning off with that monster chipper with GHD sit-ups, deadlifts, skier, cows, rope climbs, and then they just finished a fast and furious firestorm finish on the echo bike and burpees. How are these athletes feeling coming into this final event tonight?
My goodness, you know, you nailed it when you talk about the volume of work that has already been amassed throughout this. These athletes are tired, but they're prepared for it, Chase. They understand what is going to be asked of them when they show up at the CrossFit Games. The test to be the fittest on earth should be thorough, and it should certainly be a challenge, and they're getting every ounce of that as we begin this 1,600 meter run for time. We've already tested 2 polarizing differently energy systems, which means we just sprinted all out for 3 minutes and below in the last test, and then that first one was upwards of 20 minutes in duration. Today, back to back, they're going to get a taste of both one more time.
In the lead, you have Abby Dommett, who has a background in gymnastics, cheerleading, and track. She went to the University of Texas in San Antonio, so she is used to this Texas heat tonight. And you have Brooke Wells and Alexis Raptis as we're finishing our first lap of 4 in this 1,600 meter race.
Coming in at an average of 107, that lead pack there as they cross that initial line. That's moving. There's a lot of speed and intensity there, Chase, especially considering where their posterior had already been challenged earlier in today. We can understand that their legs are going to certainly start to feel a bit heavy coming on the backside of this 800 meters. So for me, as a coach and athlete in the space, what I'm considering is, have they come out too fast? Pretending to be Flash, perhaps. And will that create a sensation of them falling flat with their pace in the finish? So something to be aware of is, are they getting sucked into the moment of the Friday Night Lights and the energy of their competitors, or have they nailed the pacing just right to start this thing?
Brooke Wells now moving ahead of Abby Dommett, Alexis Raptis sitting in 3rd, Sahir Kaya in 4th. As Brooke Wells has a gymnastics background as well, but for her it's track and field, right? Her and her twin sister Sydney, track stars going in through high school, making their way through college. So Brooke Wells is used to this arena when it comes to, maybe not the distance per se, but this is familiar territory.
Yeah, and what I like to create an advantage for Brooke here is that she's done well in shorter but more metabolic derived speed tests. So we look back at the 500 meter run that we've done in the past. We look at these repetitive 400 meter intervals that we may see throughout a mixed modal test. Maybe there's a gymnastics movement, a weightlifting movement, but we come around and circulate at 400 meters at a time. Brooke has fared relatively well there versus some of the longer runs, the 35-minute runs, the 5K all at once. So this energy system, I think, allows her to shine her strengths just a touch more than some of the longer styled runs that we've seen tested in the past.
2 laps down, 2 to go. Alexis Raptis makes a pass on Brooke Wells. About halfway through the 3rd lap of the 400 meter, as Alexis Raptis has just made a pass on Brooke Wells and extending her lead as we're coming into the 2nd turn of the 3rd lap.
And you even noticed here Alexis Raptis quickening the pace of her upper body. Watch her shoulders. She's driving very aggressively through her shoulders. Her elbows are staying relatively close to her body. And that pace is quickened through the entrance into this third lap, the back half of this 1,600-meter race. And that is everything when you see the way that she nailed the pace to start. Started fast enough, Chase, to be in contention, but not too fast for her to bring up the speed on the back half.
Oh no, welcome those that are joining us on ESPN2, and there's a reason. Alexis Raptis, we just saw her make a pass on Brooke Wells. Brooke Wells just behind her, who was leading at the halfway point, and I was thinking Alexis Raptis is really dropping the hammer on this third lap of 4, and she thought it was the 4th lap.
Bro, Chase, I kid you not. I'm speechless right now what we just saw. I was in the same mindset as you. I was like, she is literally dropping her. I've never seen a CrossFit athlete come around with 800 meters left in a 1,600-meter race at this type of ferocity. However, she was mistaken. She had one full 400 meters left to go in the race. And now Brooke Wells has a huge opportunity to make a move. Alexis
Raptis still holding a small lead against Brooke Wells, but when you see something as a competitor trying to chase someone down, what fuel does that give you to try to make a pass here on this last lap?
Oh, it's tremendous fuel, and let me tell you, there was just a complete reverse in psychology and emotion between these two athletes. Alexis Raptis hastening her speed, thinking she only had one lap left, and then her running away from Brooke Wells. Brooke Wells thinking, wow, how is this girl going to be possible at doing this? And now Alexis has to rebound, bro, and she's got to find a way to fight through the finish because Brooke is there nipping her heels.
The crowd here at Farrington Field rises to their feet as Alexis Raptis and Brooke Wells are in a foot race in the last 100 meters of this 1,600-meter sprint. And can Alexis Raptis hold off Brooke Wells after dropping on the 3rd lap?
Wow. What a finish by both those ladies.
Abby Dommett comes in 3rd. Sahir Kaya. Jacqueline Dahlstrom crosses the finish line. And these are 1,600-meter times that are low 5s. Georgia Pryor, Chloe Govan-David, Sung Young Choi. As we are approaching the 6-minute mark. Now this is not the only event we have. This is a back-to-back event as Emma McQuaid, Neely, Cato, and here comes the rest of the pack. Shelby Neal working her way. Dawan Jung and Kyra Milligan. And this is a running clock event. So the athletes started with a 1,600-meter run. As you see Danny Spiegel making her way last 50 meters before she crosses the finish line. At the 12-minute mark, we are going to move to the field sprint.
Yeah, and that's a whole different thing, right? We watched Danny Spiegel finish this race here at the end of her pack that involved, of course, 20 athletes. They understand there's going to be another 20 athletes that take the field after them. So Danny had to finish that portion of the test with some intensity, but she also had to keep in mind what was to come. And now look at this finish, this head-to-head race by Alexis Raptis and Brooke Wells. Alexis Raptis had to renew her energy somehow and fight for another rep after being under the impression she only had 400 meters left, a full lap behind, and Brooke Wells was able to close the gap. And look at that. Wow.
I'm looking at the chip times, unofficial until everything becomes official, Adrian, but it looks like Alexis Raptis might have held on by 0.2 of a second. And to be able to think you were done and to have to restart is near impossible. And the fact that Alexis Raptis was able to do that, now are you a little bit rattled coming off something like that?
Yes, you're 100% rattled, and I'm going to tell you right now, she has got the maturity and the bandwidth mentally to pull it together here, but what did it cost her physically? What did it cost her physically for that point to outlast Brooke Wells? And now she's got to recoup understanding. She's only earned half of her points for this specific event.
Results for heat number 1 on the 1,600-meter run, and there you have it. Alexis Raptis holds off Brooke Wells with a 5:34 1,600-meter run. Brooke Wells is 0.2 behind her, with Abby Dommett in 3rd. "50 yards down the field, 100 total yards on the field, 70-pound bag." And there you have the Lone Star bag that Rogue Fitness designed just for this event. They'll run down 50 yards, pick up the bag, and drop it. Brooke Wells could not run down Alexis Raptis on the 1,600 meter.
Chase, we talked about this too in our preparation. Hey man, the run without the sandbag matters, but the run that matters most is with the weight, and there's no fumble in the bag. You got to pick that up with a quick transition, sling it on your shoulder, have a clean transition, and be back quickly in order to have a chance on this final 100 coming back through.
75 yards down, and then another carry at the 70-pound Happy Star. They'll drop it at the end zone, and then it will be a 100-yard dash to the finish line for part 2 of track and field. Bags down, turn around, Brooke Wells trying to make up what she lost. And oh my goodness, Georgia Pryor at a lane number 18 drops the bag and the hammer at the same time and takes part 2.
Well played, Georgia. Well played. Think about the way that she was able to unveil that strategy. It was a lot of patience. Stay with the pack, stay with the pack, stay patient. Drop that final bag, turn, and run. Elbows back, knees up. She put on a clinic there. Georgia Pryor coming through on that final straightaway.
Now with this two-parter, the combined performance of the athletes will still be worth a total of 100 points, so they're not being scored separately. You get a place points for the first part, second part, they add those together and then rank the athletes.
Right, Danny.
And here we are. Take a look at this finish here. We had Brooke Wells leading the entire race, and then it was Georgia Pryor at the bottom of your screen. Elbows back, knees up, head in neutral position. She put on a clinic for the final sprint all the way through the finish, and yet the whole entire event up into this final sprint, we weren't even talking about her once. She laid back.
Post track and field workout. Oh man, no excuses, but I'm so heavy and I cannot run right now. Definitely got last place in the mile. Pretty sure I probably got last place in the track and field. Got a lot of work to do. That's why we do CrossFit, to get better, hold standards, and have fun. I had fun. I hope that wasn't too painful to watch. Clearly, I got last place in both of those events. Finished 36th overall and got 8 points. Danny Spiegel, I believe, finished her mile in 6:34, and I finished my third lap in about the same time. So that just shows you exactly how fit these women are, and that I need to work on my running a little bit. Be sure to catch our next video, which will be Chad, 1,000 box step-ups for time. It'll be a long video, but it might be fun to watch me suffer.